You know that moment when everything seems to happen at once. The deadline, the phone call, the bad news, and suddenly your heart races, your thoughts blur, and you feel like you're losing control. We've all been there. Pressure doesn't just test our ability, it reveals our discipline. It's easy to be calm when things go well, but true composure, the kind that earns trust and inspires others, is built in chaos. The truth is, emotions are not the enemy. They're signals. They tell us what matters. The problem begins when we let those signals drive the car instead of guide the way. So, how do we stay steady when everything around us shakes? It starts with awareness. When we name what we feel, I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, I'm scared. We begin to take power back. Because you can't manage what you don't recognize. Then comes breathing, simple, human breathing. It's not just a relaxation trick, it's biology. Deep, steady breaths tell your body, I am safe. And when your body believes that your mind starts to follow, next, we must shift from reaction to response. A reaction is instant, it's emotional. A response is intentional, it's thoughtful. The difference between the two often determines whether we make progress or regret. And finally, we have to trust preparation. The more you practice calm in small moments, the more natural it becomes in big ones. Composure isn't born in crisis, it's trained in everyday discipline, in the way we listen, pause, and choose clarity over chaos. Because when pressure hits, the question isn't, will I feel emotional? You will. The real question is, will I let emotion cloud my judgment or fuel my focus? Control isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about mastering your response, so that when others lose their heads, you can keep yours. Emotions are signals, not enemies. They are the body's way of communicating what's happening inside us before our minds have even processed it. When we feel anger, fear, joy, or frustration, those feelings are messages. They're data, not directives. Yet, most of us are taught to suppress emotions or see them as weaknesses. We tell ourselves to stay strong, keep it together, or don't let them see you sweat. But strength doesn't come from ignoring emotion. It comes from understanding it. Think about it when you feel anxious before a big presentation. That anxiety isn't there to sabotage you. It's trying to prepare you. It's your body saying, this matters. When you feel angry, it's often because a boundary has been crossed or something feels unjust. When you feel sadness, it's because something you value has been lost. Every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, is trying to teach you something. The problem starts when we confuse emotions with instructions. Just because you feel anger doesn't mean you should lash out. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean you should run away. The goal isn't to silence your emotions, but to interpret them. To pause long enough to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Once you start treating emotions as information, you begin to lead yourself more effectively. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding intentionally. You turn emotional energy into clarity. You begin to notice patterns, understand triggers, and make wiser choices. In that awareness lies real control. Not the kind that suppresses emotion, but the kind that channels it. When we learn to see emotions as signals rather than enemies, we stop fighting ourselves and start working with ourselves. That's where clear thinking under pressure truly begins. Name what you feel to gain control. It sounds simple, almost too simple, yet it's one of the most powerful tools for emotional mastery. When pressure builds and emotions surge, our instinct is often to push those feelings away or bury them beneath logic. But ignoring emotion doesn't make it disappear. It simply drives it deeper, where it can quietly influence our thoughts and actions without us realizing it. By naming what we feel, we shine a light on it, and anything we can see clearly, we can manage. When you say, I'm angry, I'm nervous, or I'm disappointed, you're not surrendering to the feeling, you're acknowledging its presence. That moment of recognition creates distance between you and the emotion. Instead of being swept away by it, you begin to observe it. Neuroscientists call this affect labeling, and it's proven to reduce emotional intensity. The act of naming shifts the brain's activity from the emotional centers to the logical parts, giving you a greater sense of control. This practice takes courage and honesty. Sometimes the emotion you name won't be the first one you notice. Anger might actually be fear. Frustration might be exhaustion. The deeper you look, the more accurate your understanding becomes, and accurate awareness leads to intelligent response. When we fail to name what we feel, emotions tend to name us. They take over our tone, our decisions, our presence. But when we pause, breathe, and articulate what's going on inside, we regain leadership over our state of mind. Naming emotions doesn't make you weaker. It anchors you. It reminds you that feelings are temporary experiences, not permanent identities. The moment you name them, they stop controlling you and start informing you. Use breathing as a reset button. In moments of pressure, our breathing is often the first thing to change. It becomes shallow, fast, and uneven. This isn't random. It's the body's natural reaction to stress, preparing us for fight or flight. But while that response might have served our ancestors facing real danger, it works against us in modern challenges. A tense conversation, a tight deadline, or a critical decision doesn't require escape. It requires clarity. And clarity begins with a breath. Breathing is the bridge between body and mind. When you slow it down intentionally, you send a signal to your nervous system that you are safe. This simple act lowers your heart rate, releases muscle tension, and quiets the noise in your head. You don't need to close your eyes or sit cross-legged to feel the effect. A few slow, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, can reset your entire emotional state in seconds. It's like pressing pause on chaos. What's remarkable is how quickly breathing can change your perspective. When emotions run high, logic fades. But when you breathe deeply, oxygen flows back to the brain's rational centers, restoring balance. You start to see options instead of obstacles, solutions instead of stress. It's not that breathing solves the problem. It simply puts you in the right state to handle it. In moments of high tension, the person who breathes best often leads best. Because calm is contagious. When you can use your breath to stay grounded, you influence not only yourself, but also those around you. Your composure becomes an anchor in a storm. That's the power of breathing, not just as a habit, but as a deliberate choice to reset, refocus, and regain control when everything feels out of control. Respond, don't react. The space between stimulus and action is where leadership and self-control truly live. When something triggers us, our instinct is to react immediately. Someone criticizes us, a plan falls apart, and we panic. A mistake happens, and we rush to fix it without thinking. Reaction is fast, emotional, and often regrettable. A response, on the other hand, is measured. It's deliberate. It comes from reflection, not impulse. And that difference changes everything. Reacting gives power to the moment. Responding gives power to you. When you react, you're letting the situation dictate your behavior. When you respond, you're choosing your behavior despite the situation. That's the mark of maturity and control. It's not about suppressing emotion or pretending to be unaffected. It's about allowing emotion to inform you without allowing it to command you. In high-pressure moments, the pause is your greatest weapon. A single breath, a brief silence, a moment to collect your thoughts, that's all it takes to shift from reaction to response. During that pause, your emotions settle, your perspective widens, and your words gain weight. What might have been a rash decision becomes a thoughtful one. What could have escalated a conflict becomes an opportunity to lead. Responding doesn't mean moving slowly, it means moving wisely. It's the art of staying steady while others rush. When you learn to respond instead of react, you become grounded, clear, calm, and intentional. People begin to trust your consistency because they know you won't be thrown off course by emotion or pressure. The world doesn't slow down, but you learn to move through it differently. You stop being controlled by circumstances and start controlling your choices, one thoughtful response at a time. Train calm daily, not only in crisis. Composure under pressure isn't something that magically appears when things go wrong. It's the result of habits built long before the chaos begins. Just like athletes train their bodies to perform instinctively, we must train our minds to stay steady. The truth is, you can't expect calmness to show up in a crisis if you haven't practiced it in the quiet moments. Calm is a skill, and like any skill, it strengthens with repetition. Everyday life gives us endless opportunities to practice. It happens when someone cuts you off in traffic, when your plans change unexpectedly, or when technology fails right before an important task. These small irritations are training grounds. Each time you pause instead of snapping, breathe instead of reacting, or listen instead of interrupting, you're building emotional muscle. You're teaching your mind to default to patience, not panic. When we only focus on staying calm during big challenges, we set ourselves up for failure. By then, emotions are already running high and our instincts take over. But if calmness has been rehearsed daily, it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. Your body and mind know what to do. You become the person who steadies the room when things fall apart. Not because you're unshakable by nature, but because you've practiced being composed when it didn't matter as much. Calm training isn't about being emotionless. It's about creating enough inner space to think clearly no matter the noise around you. It's about replacing reactivity with readiness. The more often you train calm in small moments, the more naturally it appears in big ones. And when the real test comes, you'll realize that composure isn't a reaction, it's a routine you've mastered over time. Let pressure reveal your discipline, not your chaos. When life tightens, when expectations rise, and when uncertainty fills the air, that's when our true habits are exposed. Pressure doesn't create character. It exposes it. What we've practiced in calm moments will always surface in tense ones. If we've built patterns of patience, reflection, and focus, those qualities will guide us. But if we've allowed frustration, avoidance, or panic to become normal, that's what pressure will draw out. Discipline is what keeps you anchored when everything else feels unstable. Discipline isn't about rigidity or control. It's about consistency. It's the quiet commitment to doing the right thing, especially when it's inconvenient. The disciplined mind doesn't wait for motivation. It relies on preparation. When chaos strikes, discipline takes over. It reminds you to breathe, to think, to prioritize. It's the muscle memory of composure, built from 1,000 small choices you made before the storm arrived. Pressure can be uncomfortable, but it's also revealing. It shows us where we're strong and where we still have work to do. It strips away the masks of confidence and exposes the truth of our preparation. That's not something to fear, it's something to value. Every stressful moment is feedback, an opportunity to refine your response and strengthen your discipline. When you let pressure reveal your discipline, you turn challenges into checkpoints. You stop viewing stress as an enemy and start seeing it as a mirror, one that reflects the habits you've built. Chaos will always knock at the door, but it's discipline that decides who answers. And when discipline leads the way, pressure no longer breaks you. It sharpens you. It becomes proof that your calm isn't fragile, it's forged. So when the pressure rises and emotions start to pull you in every direction, remember this: control isn't about suppressing what you feel, it's about mastering how you move through it. Every emotion is a message, every pause is a choice, and every breath is a chance to begin again. The goal isn't to be unshakable, it's to stay grounded enough to think clearly when others can't. Because in the end, the people who lead best in life, in work, in crisis, aren't the ones who never feel fear or frustration. They're the ones who've learned to listen to those feelings, to name them, to breathe through them, and to act with intention. Pressure will always come. Chaos will always test you. But if you've trained calm, if you've built discipline, and if you've learned to respond instead of react, you'll find that clarity isn't lost in the storm. It's found within it. That's what it means to control your emotions and think clearly under pressure, not to escape the storm, but to become the steady hand that guides through it.